This is the call to the Islamic Ritual-Prayer, known as Salah in Arabic, in the Quran, and in the Urdu language we call it namaz. It's a mandatory embodied spiritual worship practice involving conscious intention, mindful attention, and gentle full body movement. And it's practiced by millions of Muslims 5 times a day, every day. This prayer is meant to support the cultivation of a felt sense of the divine presence, a presence that evokes safety and peace, and love and gratitude. And by felt sense, I mean a sense and feeling in the body, in the blood, like we feel hot or cold, not just a thought or a belief. And so the ritual prayer helps feel a felt sense of being safe and peaceful and loved by a being who is all gracious and all benevolent. Teachings say that if one truly became aware of the grace that envelops them during ritual prayer, they would never ever want to end the prayer. This prayer supports the daily cultivation of mindfulness and God consciousness, known as taqwa in the Arabic language. Amidst the hustle bustle of daily life, it's a practice that can support us in making regular day-to-day choices and decisions, big and small, from a space of awareness, groundedness, responsibility. For many, many Muslims, the practice of ritual prayer is a powerful experience, a powerful reminder at the beginning, middle, and end of each day of truth, a reminder of truth, of what truly matters. But sadly, for many others, this ritual can feel mechanical, simply going through the motions of body movement automatically, and feeling frustrated because of not being able to concentrate and focus the mind. And one reason for this might be a lack of the ability to be present with the body, a lack of awareness and attunement with the body. Since it's common for human beings to disconnect and dissociate from the body. Also, for many of us who are caught up in an intellectual pursuit of worship and prayer rather than a wholehearted embodied prayerfulness, praying the ritual prayer might not support a deeper healing through integration of the body, mind, spirit. I learned to pray the ritual prayer when I was just 7 years old. It was the most natural thing for me since I had grown up seeing my parents pray every day. And I also remember my own children when they were just 2-3 years old standing next to me on my prayer mat and bowing their head when they saw me bow my head in prayer. And so by the age of 15, I was praying diligently 5 prayers a day. And while there were times when it felt very spiritual and helped me connect with a deep sense of faith, there were many times when I felt really dissatisfied with myself because of not being able to concentrate, not being able to have the experience I thought I should be having. And the essence of the ritual seemed lost to me. At those times, it felt to me that I was praying just because I had to, I thought I should, and I wanted to. But there was also some real resistance there. In fact, I remember having a dialogue with the resistance, engaging with it, asking it what it wants to say to me, to try and understand what's going on here. On one hand, I love this beautiful practice, and on the other hand, I'm experiencing this resistance. And what I became aware of was this conditioned false belief that unless I felt a certain way during my prayer, the prayer was not good enough, and therefore I was not good enough. I didn't realize that I was going about it the wrong way, trying to conceptually force and manufacture a preconceived feeling, capture an experience, rather than simply trust my intention and make a gentle effort to surrender, to be present, and allow everything that is present to be held in the divine presence that is omnipresent. Be present and allow everything that is present to be held in the divine presence that is omnipresent, that is all compassionate. Practicing mindfulness, body awareness, especially mindful movement practices, it has really enlivened and enriched my experience of praying the ritual prayer. It helps me be more present within, with and in my body, in a way that helps me tune into my spirit. And this evokes a felt sense of the infinite spirit. So now, many a times when I pray, I do experience moments during which I feel so enveloped by grace and held by grace, I just don't want to end the prayer. And this happens especially more so when I pray outdoors in nature, on the grass, on the sand, amidst the trees, under the sky. The Prophet Mohammed, founder of Islam, he said, "As-salatu mizanun, man awfa istawfa." Think of the ritual prayer as a scale. Give full measure, receive full measure. A very cause-effect law of nature. So when we give our full and mindful attention to all that is present, we open our hearts to fully receiving the abundance of grace that is always and already present. When we give our full and mindful attention to all that is present, we open our hearts to fully receiving the abundance of grace that is always and already present. I remember my father, he used to say that praying the ritual prayer is the best investment of our time and energy. And the sense of deep nourishment I feel when I pray is evidence of that truth for me. And I feel so very grateful for being able to engage wholeheartedly in an embodied way with a practice that is so close to my heart. It's so awesome and so precious to me. Studies show that mindfulness and mindful movement practices can positively influence the experience of ritual prayer for Muslims by helping us becoming more aware of the body, its sensations, its form, its movement. Research says that ritual prayer offered mindfully contributes towards better mental health as compared to that offered without mindfulness. Ritual prayer reduces stress, depression, blood pressure. It increases parasympathetic activity, the part of the body-mind which helps us relax and settle and come into balance. Research also shows that the gentle muscle contraction and relaxation that happens through the mindful movements of ritual prayer bring about fluidity and flexibility of the muscles. And people who pray the ritual prayer are also shown to have healthier behavior patterns. They report greater life satisfaction and greater hopefulness. And cultivating body awareness, being present in the body intentionally, can support a deeper and more fulfilling ritual prayer experience for Muslims. The movement, the physical postures and recitations included in ritual prayer if practiced mindfully in an embodied way, can really facilitate a sense of alignment, balance, and harmony within, in a way that brings us closer to our own true divine nature, what is known as fitrah, or our original state of being, known as fitrah in Islam. In this video, I'd like to share a few points related to Islam and embodiment, embodied spirituality, and the Islamic Ritual-Prayer. But before I do that, here's the short story. It said that during the time of the Prophet Mohammed, a man came up to him and requested him to pray that he go to heaven. The Prophet heard the man and then responded to him and said, "You can help me by praying the ritual prayer. My prayer for you will be answered if you do your part and pray the ritual prayer." This simple anecdote makes it clear that each one of us is responsible for our spiritual evolution. And the ritual prayer is meant to, it can help us navigate our life journey, our spiritual journey, by helping us cultivate taqwa, awareness, God consciousness in making life choices. And the fact that the ritual prayer is a form of worship which involves the whole body points to the fact that God consciousness has much to do with the body, with being mindfully present in the body. So coming to the first point, according to the Islamic view, human beings are spiritually embodied beings. The body, mind, and soul spirit are intrinsically connected. The Quran, which is considered to be the word of God by Muslims, it says that human beings come alive. God brought to life human beings by infusing the body, mind with the spirit of soul. Nafkhur ruh in Arabic. So then these are no longer separate. They're intrinsically connected. And this intrinsic connection, this interdependent relationship between the body, mind, the soul, spirit, is also described in a philosophical treatise, an Islamic philosophical treatise dating back to the 13th century called the Ikhwanus safa. And one metaphor in this treatise, it speaks of the body as a womb and the soul as the fetus finding nourishment through the womb. Another metaphor speaks of the body as a library and the soul as a child who learns from the knowledge stored in the library of the body. Now, many times the body is considered to be subservient, something the soul needs to exert control over, something that gets in the way of our higher self. But what if what gets in the way is the way? What if what gets in the way is the way? What if the pathway to spirit is the body? What if our work is to inhabit the body in a way that we dwell in the spirit that the body is infused with? And these questions invite us to open our minds and hearts to the wisdom in these metaphors, which says that the soul learns from the innate intelligence and wisdom of the body. The soul learns through this intrinsic connection with the body. This treatise also speaks about sohbatun nafse ma'al jasad, friendship and intimacy between the body and soul, which in my understanding refers to the integration of the body, mind, soul, spirit. Unfortunately, In many religious communities, the value of connecting with the body, befriending the body, engaging in practices that help cultivate body awareness and support integration is not recognized. And so spiritual ideas and practices are inadvertently used as a way to bypass the body, bypass humanness. And this is called spiritual bypassing, a term coined by John Wellwood in the 1980s. And spiritual bypassing is defined as using spiritual concepts as a way to sidestep emotional unfinished business, turn a blind eye to incomplete developmental stages, belittle basic needs, avoid uncomfortable feelings. All of this in the name of spirituality, enlightenment, the greater good, but actually in service of the ego. On the other hand, embodied spiritual practices can really help us harness the power, the strength, and softness of spiritual wisdom and teachings to help work with everything that we are, including the messy, emotional aspects of being human, to work with all that we are and transform. Embodied spiritual practice can help us learn to live fully the paradox of being human and becoming godlike. التشبه بالإلهية حسب الطاقة الإنسانية, which also comes from the philosophical treatise Ikhwanus safa. Becoming godlike very much within our human limitations. Acknowledging our human limitations. The Prophet has said that tendencies of greed, jealousy, aversion, false pride flow through human beings, flow through us like the flow of blood. And it is also said that God created humans in His own image. Islamic teachings speak about human beings having the potential to embody and actualize divine qualities and virtues such as compassion, justice, forgiveness, gratitude. And so to be able to navigate this paradox of being human and conditioned and being unconditional, having the potential to be unconditional in our awareness, our love, our faith, and fulfilling this divine potential in human form is, according to Islam, the purpose of our lives. And to do that, we need to learn to engage and work with all that we are, our mind, heart, body, spirit. Engage authentically with sincere intention and devotion, with consistent effort. So we become more and more of who we truly are. We fulfill our life's purpose. Now this brings us to the second point. If human beings are embodied spiritual beings, then the practice of ritual prayer highlights Islam's emphasis on the body, on walking an embodied spiritual path, because the ritual prayer involves the whole body, learning to intentionally work with the body mindfully as a way to engage and enliven the spirit and soul that the body has been infused with. The body is always in the present. Unlike the mind, which goes in the past, runs into the future, the body is always in the here, now. And it is always in surrender, unlike the ego mind. The body follows the natural laws of creation, aging, death, its own conditioning. It is the way it is. The word Islam literally means surrender. And the Islamic ritual prayer, when practiced in an embodied way, is meant to nurture a deep felt sense of surrender to the divine presence. The body postures involved in ritual prayer, standing, bowing, prostration, sitting, they're all physical expressions of the principles of Islam. They're meant to embody certain attitudes, ways of being, virtues such as dignity, humility, surrender, trust. For example, the sajda or prostration posture. It requires us to touch our forehead to the ground, and behind the forehead, as we know, is the most evolved part of the human brain, the prefrontal cortex. So we are bringing that to the earth. That's embodied humility. And in this posture, in the sajda, the heart, the human heart is physically higher from the ground than the head. And this indicates the power and intelligence, the wisdom of the human heart. This posture is also a very vulnerable posture. And it's said that the sajda, in which we are embodying humility and vulnerability and surrender, it's the posture which can bring us ever more closer to God. This attitude of humility is an intrinsic component of the ritual prayer. And to really cultivate and embody this virtue, it's necessary to engage the heart and mind with the body in this practice, in this posture. Without that, the postures of ritual prayer, they lose their meaning. And if we are praying only from a head space, an intellectual space, without being intimately connected with the body, again, the body postures fail to come alive. One scholar writes it beautifully. She says that the ritual prayer is meant to embody humble awareness of the great divine. This is no small feat and requires a deep sense of body awareness. Body awareness doesn't mean that the attention never wanders away from the body. Of course it does. We are human. It's the nature of the mind to wander. The practice is the practice of returning. It's not about not ever leaving. The practice is the practice of returning. We are cultivating the ability to come back to the present, to come back to the body, to come back into surrender. Also, the ritual prayer is meant to be a practice that engages the body gently and lightly, with ease, without force and strain. One verse in the Quran describes God-conscious people as those who walk gently and lightly upon the earth. And this flavor of gentleness and lightness is encouraged very much in ritual prayer worship. The Prophet has said that أفضل العبادة أخفها. The best worship is light. And when the grossness, the heaviness of the body is imbued with a subtle and tender attention, the body feels light, it lightens. And so the lightness and tenderness of this practice can also be a key factor in enriching the experience of ritual prayer. One more point here. Muslims are required, we have to perform pre-prayer ablutions. Washing the face, hands, forearms with water in a specific way, moving wet hands over the head and feet, So on one hand, this is a cleansing practice, and on the other hand, it stimulates, it awakens the body through touch and water and prepares it for the spiritual experience of prayer. Without this sense of being in touch with the body, being connected with the body, it's difficult, if not impossible, to experience a felt sense of being connected with the divine, with God, with Allah. Now coming to the third and last point. There are some verses in the Quran which speak about the ritual prayer as a practice that helps us make wiser choices. One verse says, Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Indeed, the ritual prayer helps one abstain from harm and unwholesomeness. Another verse says, Wasta'inu bis sabri was salah. Seek help through patience and through the ritual prayer. And both these verses, they point out the value of ritual prayer in nurturing a balanced state of awareness and God consciousness, which can help us make wiser choices. They can help us be present with the difficult stuff of life. Be present and thereby see more clearly the truth of things. And through that clear seeing, recognize the wiser choice. So these verses, they clearly highlight the connection between mindful spiritual body movement and between the ability to make conscious choices, choices that are aligned with spirit, with truth, with goodness, with godliness. And so to wrap up this talk, ritual prayer is a foundational practice of Islam. And through intentional body movement and focus of attention, a Muslim practicing the ritual prayer can support themselves in the cultivation of God consciousness and making wiser choices. This practice can support an integration of the body, mind, heart, spirit. Nothing is left out or pushed away. All of who we are is welcome in this space. All of who we are is held by grace in its boundless embrace, and it's transformed. As we surrender all of who we are, we become more of who we truly are. I'd like to end now by sharing one of my favorite teachings related to the ritual prayer and also applicable to life as a whole. And this teaching is attributed to Imam Ali, the successor and son-in-law of the Prophet Mohammed. Imam Ali speaks about three kinds of worshippers, three stages of worship, evolutionary stages. So first, there are worshippers who are in bondage. And by this, in the context of ritual prayer, he refers to people who pray out of fear in order to escape punishment. And in the context of life, this is referring to people who function primarily from a space of fear. They're caught up in fear without even knowing it. Next, there are worshippers who are business-minded, people who are caught up in desire, and they pray to get something in return, gain something, which is a part of being human, wanting to have something. There's nothing wrong with that per se. And yes, and yet this mode of functioning out of desire, it limits us. And then the third and most evolved are worshippers who are free. Free not from feeling fear and desire, because that's impossible as long as we're in this human form. These people are free from the prison of trying to run and escape from fears and desires that manifest in the body. They are free to allow and turn toward their fears and desires, free to work with them in a space of trust so that they begin to transform from a space of trust and embodied surrender in a way that helps them learn from the wisdom of the body and shift from autopilot mode to a more conscious way of being, living, making choices from a space of courage, even when feeling fear. And all of us, being human as we are, we tend to move between these stages as we move through life, sometimes making choices from a space of fear or desire. And there are times we are able to make choices from a deep sense of freedom and trust. And so worshippers who are free, they pray the ritual prayer from a space of gratitude. So this hierarchical concept of worship in Islam, it reflects the evolutionary path of embodied spirituality that Muslims are invited to walk on. And the ritual prayer is a precious and powerful practice that can help us as we walk that path, one step at a time, one breath at a time, one prayer at a time. Thank you for your kind attention. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا صدق الله العظيم.
As I learn to pray in an embodied way, I am becoming the prayer. My whole being reverberates with a fierce longing towards the divine. The cells in my body vibrate to the frequency of an intensely still yet dynamic spirituality that fills me up like water filling up the river floor, deep and life-giving. Both light and darkness within me simply bow in surrender to the one source that everything comes from, the one source that all return to. What more do I wish for? What more do I want? I am becoming a living prayer, a breathing aspiration, yearning to be touched by grace, longing to be one with grace. Blessedness is my name. It is my honor to share here a beautiful and heart-touching munajat prayer composed by my beloved father, Babai Sab Maula Sayyidina Qutbuddin. The munajat prayer is an intimate and cherished conversation with Allah and is often considered to be an extension of the ritual prayer practice. Naji ka Rabbi hamidan laka shakira wad'uka Rabbi sajidan laka zakira.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Alhamdulillah. I saw your video. It was a beautiful video.
Thank
I
you.
enjoyed it thoroughly. I wanted to ask a few questions about it. Is that all right?
Yeah, please feel welcome.
So, actually, when I was seeing it, I was thinking more of, I would like to know more about your experience, more of it. Of course, you talked about it in the video. I got the gist of it. Also, the way you spoke itself spoke about your conviction about it. Can you shed some more light on your experience of namaz itself? And yes, and also how it has changed for you, through the years.
Yes. Thank you for asking. And as I shared in the video, it has deepened. It has become more rich, and it is something that I've come to love more. I was taught to do it since I was a child, and I was aware since I was a child, aware of the sanctity of this practice. But the awareness was more intellectual, and knowing that this is a beautiful practice and it can help me deepen in my faith, and it can help me walk the spiritual path. And and during those times, again, as I shared in the video, there were varying experiences of praying the ritual prayer. There were moments of deep connectedness with life, with Allah, with myself, with all beings. And I cherished those moments. But there were many more experiences of frustration, again, is the word that is coming up for me as I speak about that, and self-irritation, and not being able to get it right, or, just experiencing resistance to praying, even though I want to, but there's resistance. And so what started happening after I started engaging with body practices and becoming more aware of my body, coming into my body, being more present with the body, it very organically helped me be more present during ritual prayer, and especially Qigong. And I love Qigong so much because of this, that it really enlivened and enriched my practice of ritual prayer, which is so close to my heart. And it really evoked this sense of deep peace, serenity. It's like, wow. Well, it's a little unbelievable, even when I bring it to heart and mind right now. Yeah.
Thank you. That's
very,
lovely.
very grateful.
Another question that's coming up is that, it's like a whole process you go through when you start namaz and you end namaz. And what is the process that you go through?
Yeah, thank you again for asking. So, it depends a little bit on what I've been doing before namaz and what's going on for me and where I am. Again, as I shared in the video, if I'm in nature, I kind of come into the body nature supports embodiment, is my experience. And when stuff's going on, and then I pray namaz, it takes a while for me, to come into the body. And there have been times in the recent past where I've noticed my mind really hijacking my attention, the left brain, I mean. And I'm present, and then I'm not. I'm present, and I'm then. And at some point, I notice this, and I'm able to bring the rumination. Let me see how to say this, to kind of not fight with the rumination. Kind of, okay, it's there, and I'm praying. So I'm not letting that rumination come in the way of being present with the body. Somehow, I don't know if it's very clear, but again, if it's fear, and this just happened a couple of days ago, I was feeling a lot of fear, I was feeling it in my body, and it was the resistance to that was getting in the way of being in flow in the prayer. Once I noticed that, and I was, okay, I'm afraid, and I'm praying with the fear, and in that sense, I'm offering it for healing to the divine. There's a component of trust. The word trust is coming up for me, that whatever is here, it could be the most difficult emotion or the most, a very difficult thought that causes suffering. That's the resistance that comes in the way of presence, or presence with the resistance, being present with the body. Okay, if the resistance is in the body, being present with it in the body. So and again, a guideline offered in Qigong is just do it poorly or properly. So not getting caught up in, am I praying the right? Mm-hmm. It's like all of that is so much the left brain, just going with the flow. And because there's the movement and the repetition, really supports a kind of flow. Mm-hmm. That's how I experience it.
So what I'm hearing you say is that this also helps you process your very, very difficult emotions.
Oh, yes. And yeah, thank you for naming that so clearly. And it happens, I think this is a key point here, which I'd like to bring to the fore. The processing happens without any analysis or without having to relive, sometimes in therapy that's needed and encouraged, to go back to a difficult memory and be with it in a way that there's some release, that something that has been unfelt is felt. With body practices, that happens, or with ritual prayer, coming specifically to ritual prayer, happens at the sensory level, because all thoughts, emotions, memories, they're stored in the body as sensations. Mm-hmm. And so tuning into the body, tuning into the sensations, and then going with the flow of the sensations somehow supports a processing at a sensory level. And again, it's about trust in that process, trust in the healing. Because in my own process, I've so often caught myself wanting to understand, figure out, and there's an implicit effort, implicit kind of agenda there to not really feel. And so the embodied processing of difficult emotions can be very powerful. And I experience it in ritual prayer consciously sometimes, and sometimes I just trust that it's happening. Mm-hmm. Might not be that conscious. It's this again, coming back to this, the experience of really feeling held and feeling safe with whatever is there, inside, outside. And I cannot be grateful enough for that. Thank you so much for asking.
So in your journey of healing, can I ask you something personal about, your journey of healing through parental alienation and what you have suffered? How did that journey and this prayer, come together in your through the years?
Again, thank you for asking. So, for those of our viewers who might not know, parental alienation is a phenomena where one parent psychologically manipulates the children against the other parent. And I've been an alienated parent for, and you know that. We've experienced this for many years now. It's close to 8 years. And, there's parental alienation, and then what that opened up for me in terms of buried traumas. And then how ritual prayer is helping me heal. So if I think about specifically the pain of parental alienation, and which is an ongoing pain, an ongoing trauma, and it's difficult for me even now to go there, and it comes up in moments. And what's coming up for me now as I think about this pain and the Islamic ritual prayer is how the practice of prayer helps me deepen in trust. And that trust kind of manifests in all aspects of my life, in all situations and challenges. So in this situation where my children have been alienated from me, there's a deep sense of trust that is growing, a sense of faith that my love reaches them even in this moment, even though they are far away, even though they might not consciously realize it. So it's the connection that's happening for me right now as I reflect on that is just, the deepening in trust through my own healing process, how Islamic ritual prayer and it supports that process, and being able to surrender to the reality, to the pain, gradually, organically, with trust, because it is hard. And just one last thing, that there is, as I learn to do that, to surrender to the pain and deepen in trust, there is a deep sense of peace many times. Right there with the pain, there's a sense of peace that, okay, this is really hard, but I'm aware of the power of faith and peace, even as I work through whatever, this pain. Work through this pain or feel this pain. Oh.
Thank you so much for sharing. I will ask you one last question about what the Prophet has said, that the earth is our mother. And when you pray on this earth, when you bow down, you do the prostration, do you connect yourself to the earth? And you being a mother, how do you connect with the earth?
Thank you so much for asking that. Yes, I resonate with that very deeply. The saying of the Prophet that the earth is our mother and she is benevolent unto us. And I have to honor one of my teachers, David Cabrera, he's a mindfulness teacher, and he very often, time and again, invites us to connect with the earth and open our hearts to receiving its benevolence. And that's really transferred organically into the prostration sajda posture, where we are touching our forehead to the earth. And when I do sajda, what I experience is the feeling of being held by creation. And it's physically feeling held by the earth because there's a sense of let go. There's a sense of release. It's kind of almost as if the weight, because the sajda posture, it's the back is at this angle, so there's a sense that all the weight from the back is slipping off, and there's a sense of release and feeling safe and just being held again. Yeah. And
You had also mentioned that the heart comes on the top. That was an interesting point.
Yes, I read that somewhere. I don't remember exactly where, but that really also, stayed with me. That we as human beings, especially in today's age, we put a lot of emphasis on the left brain, the intellect, the head, and it has its place. I mean, the faculties we have are so powerful, and then there's the heart, which is even more powerful. And in this posture, where we are, as the Prophet said, closest to the divine, it's through the heart really, and there's this heart-brain coherence that we are able to tune into, that absolute reality, that truth, that we are held in so much grace, the warm embrace of grace in every moment.
And even about the vulnerability that you spoke, the posture itself is so vulnerable.
Yes.
So that also, what you're speaking about, is part of the experience,
Yes,
I believe.
Very much. A very vulnerable posture that invites being at ease with vulnerability, invites being open to trusting that we are held when we are most vulnerable.
So you're embodying it. You're actually doing it repetitively.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way I understand it. That's what the Islamic Ritual-Prayer really invites us to embody, all of these aspects of being human and having a potential, a divine potential that we have been blessed with. And one more thing came up for me as we were speaking. Yeah, it's gone. Well, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. So I really enjoyed having this conversation.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's beautiful to be part of this experience.
Thank you so much for being here with me, for sharing and for listening to me. I love you. With my sister, and I'm noticing a lot of gratitude for that, for her right now. And I feel moved to share a couple of things that came up for me in the context of her last question about the earth being our mother and the sajda or prostration posture where we touch the forehead to the earth during the Islamic ritual prayer. And I shared with her that I feel very held during sajda. I feel safe. I feel like creation is holding me and will take care of me, will take care of life. And I want to add to that as a mother, that feeling of being held allows me to hold my own inner wounded child, support my deeper healing, and it allows me to really hold my children, even though they're not with me. Hold them in my heart with a lot of love. So I just wanted to make that connection between feeling held during the ritual prayer and being able to hold. That feels very empowering. It feels very humbling.
and it evokes deep, deep gratitude. Thanks once again for your kind attention.